then. So I've a couple of times put out posts on Facebook to say that I was going to share some stuff that I think could be useful, or that I know will be useful. So this is the first of a whole series of videos that is effectively going to be me getting out the stuff that I've learned in such a way that it's usable for as many people as possible. So I'm thinking people who have mental health issues, people who are struggling or suffering, living in fear at the moment because of this coronavirus pandemic, people who are struggling with relationships, people who are struggling with their own health or connection to others, connection to self, connection to source, whatever you want to call that. So I'm going to start sharing. I've got a huge list of stuff that I'm going to be working through, and it'll probably continue to evolve as I go into a month of really deep inner work anyway, myself with Emma. So I'm going to start with something really simple, and until we get this first part down and deeply understood, then everything else is going to be way more difficult. So I want to get this bit right first. I'll get this bit understood first. From this point forward, once you understand this part, everything else is going to become way easier, and the information will just flow in way easier with way less resistance, and you'll know what to do with it, and etc. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the willingness to be wrong. So suffering generally starts with resistance. Suffering is resistance to what is. So if you could fully accept everything as it is, no matter what, there would be no suffering. You know, even if you're in a lot of pain, physical pain, if you can accept that physical pain and just let it be there, the suffering ends. The suffering is the choice, and the suffering is made of resistance. And resistance is made of limited perspectives. So when we're talking about willing to be wrong, what that actually means is we're stuck in a perspective. We don't need to see our perspective as wrong, but to be willing to be wrong. So a good way to look at this is, if you imagine how many people there are in the world, right? So there's over 7 billion people in the world. And everybody has their own set of opinions and perspectives and ideas and beliefs. They can't all be right. Or they can't all be the only ones that are right. You know, if one person likes you and someone else doesn't, you know, somebody says that you're a bad person, someone says you're a good person, you know, how can they both be right? So that would then lead you to realize, if you can look at it from that angle, something so simple, to look at all your own belief structures and perspectives, ideas, and the way that we believe the world is and people are and what's actually going on. If we can look at that and realize, so it's not right. Maybe all the arguments I've had in my life, I've really just been arguing against somebody else's perspective. I've not been arguing for the truth. It's, I have an idea, they have an idea, and they're different ideas. Neither of us are right or wrong. And this is a difficult one. You know, the brain really wants to be right about everything. It really wants to be right, to the point that it will filter out everything that is in a disagreement with what your existing belief structure is. It wants to be right. It needs to be right. So what will happen then is, like, your whole perspective, your whole experience of life will be very, very heavily filtered, so that the only data that actually reaches you, that you actually are consciously aware of, is the stuff that back up what you already believe to be true, which is why we can get so set in our beliefs, because we're programmed that way, that our version of reality is always saying, yes, you're right, yes, you're right, yes, you're right. Of course we're going to start to believe that we're right. But then we can bear in mind that that's also happening to everybody else in the world who have their own beliefs and their own ideas and perspectives. Until we can realize or deeply understand that actually my ideas and my opinions and perspectives are not the truth, they're my truth right now as things stand, but that's always open to be shaken and destroyed by life, right? And life will, if you have a belief that's not serving you and it's time for you to move on, then life is going to do whatever it takes to break that belief. So the more heavily attached to those beliefs and perspectives you are, the louder life is going to have to scream at you to break that down, which is then going to mean that you're going to suffer, right? Because it's going to make big things happen. Pretty much what's happening in the world right now. I saw a funny meme thing earlier that said, I feel like the Earth's sent us all to bed, sent us all to our room to think about what we've done. And this is, when we're not listening, I'm going to cover this again. This is on the list. I'm going to cover this in more detail later. But when we're not listening and we're stuck in our perspective and we've got our blinkers on like this, we're gonna struggle. Life's gonna have to start screaming at us, and then there's more drama. Imagine the drama in your life. The louder it has to speak, the more dramatic, the more intense the delivery of the message that it is that you need to hear, that you're not seeing. So this is all pointing towards one thing: the willingness to be wrong. Now, if you imagine for every time you think you're right about one thing, you are in resistance to everything that opposes that. Now, thinking how many people there are in the world, circumstances and events and situations that will contradict what your belief system is and your perspective, you have to filter all that out and reject it to maintain the belief that you're right about this thing. And that all that rejection is rejection of love. It's rejection. Full stop. It's suffering. It causes suffering. It causes your world to be smaller. Imagine how much smaller it is when you're having to filter out so much stuff because it's not consistent with your beliefs. It's not congruent with what you believe to be true. Therefore, you're living this tiny little sliver of life. Whereas when you can collect perspectives like you would something that you love, like really collect them. Every time someone disagrees with you, you can collect that perspective, go, okay, thank you for that. Now I realise there is another perspective other than mine. And you don't have to argue with it. You can just collect it and go, okay, that's another one that I can drop into the pool of the things that I accept as okay. Oh, that person has that perspective. Drop it in the pool. And someone else maybe disagrees with you. Oh, that person has that. There's another perspective I can drop into the pool. This is the pool of things that I deem okay and acceptable. Now, can you imagine if not one single person on the entire planet could possibly trigger you in such a way, disagree with you in such a way that it has any effect on you whatsoever? Can you imagine how much more freeing that would be? How much easier your relationships would be? And I'm not talking about stifling it. I'm not talking about someone disagrees and inside you're going, you're wrong, but I must accept that for a better life. Rather than looking at it that way, it's just okay. Choose whether you want to stick with yours. You might still want to stick with it, but at the same time, allowing everything else to still be okay. Now, when you are confronted with something that is in opposition to what you already believe to be true, and you'll feel that little sting of resistance, sometimes you're talking to someone and you see their eyes narrow, or they're like, oh, no, I don't think so. And you see these very real, physical, visceral, emotional and psychological reactions to what it is that you're sharing. Or you might see it in other people, two people arguing, and you can see such a visceral reaction. Everybody else's perspective that you're in rejection that you're rejecting, has a place in your body where it lives, which is why when they reject you, go, oh, and you have this reaction, and it actually affects you. And you can't look beyond it. In that moment, when that thing's triggering you, it's very difficult to see anything beyond that, so your world is really small. That's the first thing. Is I'm going to be sharing some stuff here that may not have ever been shared. I don't know. Some stuff is stuff that I've learned myself. I've learned it through entheogenic experiences, breathwork, meditation, which I'm going to talk about as well in other videos. I might have read them in books by really high level conscious people, like yogis and things like that, like your Eckhart Tolles and your Mujis and your spiritual teachers and stuff like that. And then also bringing in like the scientists and the stuff that the scientists are talking about, like your Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, and then the other spiritual folk like, Michael Beckwith, people who are heart-centered. So I have like a whole range of people that I've learned from, as well as doing the deep stuff myself. And some of this stuff that I'm saying, a glance, if you just say it to the average person, they might hear it and instantly want to reject it, which is why this video is the one that needs to come first, just to allow something new to enter. And as you feel the resistance, realize, could this resistance and me rejecting what's been said now be the difference between me actually having a comfortable, expansive life of more and more freedom and connection and ability to love and expansion of my capacity to be able to love and to receive love? Could this little bit of resistance actually be a part of that wall that is stopping me from having that true freedom? I mean, this is what we really want, right? And again, I'm going to cover this. It's everything boils down to love. It's what we really want. Love and fear, right? We want to get out of fear and into love. I'm going to talk about that. But this needed to come first, just to absorb the fact that, okay, my perspective isn't necessarily the right one. It can't be. Because if it is, then you are probably the only person in the world who is right about everything. The brain doesn't like to hear it, but just allow that to sink in. Okay, I am definitely wrong about some things. I know if you've got any type of rational mind and you've made it this far in this video, then you're listening to, then there's a part of you that realizes this is definitely true. And that part of you is the part of you that's going to carry you through this journey, that's going to lead you towards more and more freedom, expansion, love, connection. So you can really express your positive attributes and relinquish your resistance to fear and pain and suffering, and allow things to sit within this system that you have, this human system, this spiritual and energetic system. Something that it can sit within there without you actively trying to get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. And again, something else this all ties in together, so there'll be a lot of crossover between videos, but with slightly different angles, looking at a different aspect of it. Everything that you experience in your entire life is going through the filter of you and your beliefs. So everything you resist lives in your body. There's a sensation in your body, as I said, that represents the resistance to that thing out there. So as long as you're resisting the things out there, you're actually resisting something within you, which is self-rejection. It's the opposite of self-acceptance. So how do you accept yourself fully? Is to accept everything outside there, because everything outside of you has an exact corresponding part within you, a sensation within you. You look at a beautiful beach and you feel it in your body. You look at someone who's homeless and you feel that in your body. You look at the news and the war and the violence that they're showing us all the time, and it has a sensation in your body. So until we can accept all those sensations, and all that will accept everything outside of us, or vice versa, you accept everything outside of you, and it allows you to accept the sensations within your body as well. It's the same thing. This is self-acceptance, and that is only going to happen when we can get out of our box, out of our perspective, and look at everything else and allow it to be okay, and to allow that to actually sit and be okay. And the stuff that I'm going to share, like I say, will land more easily once you can get that little thing under your belt. And I hope that's helpful. I'm going to keep each of these videos as short as I can whilst getting the point across in a way, hopefully, that it'll land in your mind and in your system when you go, oh yeah, I get that makes sense. I'll listen to the next one and see where it's leading. That's really my goal now, is to, this stuff I could reel it all off in 5 minutes, this list, but you need what we call buy-in. You need something within you to click and go, yeah, now I get it. That's my language. That's the way I get it. And it's not gonna land for everybody. It's not going to land for everybody, and it'd be impossible for me to do that. But what I can do is try and make it very easy using metaphors or similes or life situations that you can relate to, that will give you that buy-in where you go, right, okay, I'm bought in enough to implement this, to at least listen to it and discuss it with other people and maybe do a bit of research on it. That's another thing as well. I'll be sharing links where you can do a bit of research to back up the stuff that I'm saying, and just to really make it easy. My job is to get all this out of me. If I had a month to live, what do I want the world to know? That's what this is. It's going to be a month of that. So if I only had a month to live, what do I really want to get out into the public for humanity? That really matters, you know. What do I want to get out? That's what this month is going to be, me diving into that, and backing it up with as much as I could. But I'm not dying, not that I know of. So I hope you've got something from this so far. Drop any comments in and open up some discussion. Even if it's like there's a thing that I call it sitting on your butts. Don't sit on your butts, and it means when you go, yeah, but, and there's an argument comes up, right? For as long as you say, yeah, but that doesn't apply to me because X, Y, Z, because I'm different because of this, my problems are bigger, my perspective is definitely right, it has to be blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, when you say, yeah, but, if you can open those up and put them out there for discussion, then that's going to give you the opportunity for somebody to, hopefully in the right way, offer you a new perspective. So you don't have to reject your old one, and I would actively say don't reject your old one. Just put it to one side potentially. If it doesn't serve you anymore, put it to one side like you would a childhood teddy bear that you no longer need for that comfort, because you find comfort in other areas of life or within yourself. You don't reject the teddy bear, you don't hate it all of a sudden or make it wrong. It's like, thank you for where the energy that you brought into my life. Thank you for being there when I needed you, or whatever. You might not do this consciously, but you can then take that childhood belief, like you would a childhood toy, and you just put it to one side and you're done with that now. But it's still there. If anyone else has that same belief, you don't go, you're wrong, because you can come from a place of compassion. I've had that belief myself before, and I understand what you're saying. And what I also learned was this, and this, and then you get to share this stuff with other people, family, friends, whatever. Hope that's been helpful, and I'm just going to wrap that up for today, and I'll share another one tomorrow to move on from this one. All right, thanks.